Welcome to the Chronic Pain Experience podcast. I am your host, Dina Chopoulos. In today's episode, we are talking about restoring confidence for a life well lived despite the relentless grip of chronic pain. I want to acknowledge the unceasing weight of living with constant pain, the persistent doubts that arise with each ache, and the ongoing frustration of feeling like your body has let you down. This pain extends beyond the physical, shaping an enduring emotional battle. It gradually wears away at your self-esteem, causing you to question your value and your capacity to lead a gratifying life. We'll explore how restoring your confidence can be the key to unlocking a life of purpose, connection, and joy. We'll address the common obstacles and challenges faced by those who live with pain, and we'll challenge the beliefs that hold you back from embracing a life well lived despite the pain. Today, I am joined by a friend and former colleague, Ann Deluca. Ann is the author, an author and a women's confidence coach with a coaching certification through the Coactive Training Institute, neuro-linguistic programming master practitioner, and certified resilience coach with the Leadership Wellness Group. Ann is passionate about helping women in particular hear their own voice, tap into their own strengths and capabilities, and get clear on what they want so they are able to stop running away from what they don't want and start running towards what they do want with purpose and confidence. Ann's a regular human being just like everyone else with fears, vulnerabilities, and insecurities. She also has a lot of courage, a really positive mindset, and is constantly listening for the nudges of her heart and gut and heeding them when they come. She's been described as grounded, real, and optimistic, and I would vouch for that, absolutely. It just so happens that this is what her clients, friends, and family appreciate about her and her realness. Ann's motto for life has pretty much always been nothing ventured, nothing gained. Take chances, take a leap, see what happens. Does it always work out? Hell no. However, Ann will tell you that she has a few regrets. Ann will tell you she has few regrets, and it often does work out, and sometimes way better than we could ever imagine. And thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I have to tell you, listeners, and whoever might be viewing this, we tried last week to do this through technology, and I think technology said screw you. So we're doing it face to face, which is honestly exciting because we've known each other for so long that this is just fun. Yeah. So thank you guys for being here with us. So what I am most excited about, other than seeing Ann face to face, is that we're really going to dive into talking about building self-confidence. And Ann is the queen of helping women, especially, and men too. She gets men as well. But
I do. But mostly women.
But yes.
Yeah, because it's relatable to women, sadly.
Absolutely.
Right? We got work to do.
We do.
Yeah.
So a little context for our listeners. Pain can significantly erode our self-confidence, which you know already, manifesting in various ways, including self-doubt, isolation, dependence on others, a lack of trust in one's own body and abilities, feelings of being misunderstood, apprehensions about the future, and concerns about potential rejection due to the challenges posed by living with pain. So if you live with pain long enough, that pain confidence cycle begins to sort of perpetuate itself, where that lack of self-confidence increases both the emotional and physical pain. And in turn, the pain erodes our self-confidence. So we're here today to talk about it. So Ann has written 2 amazing books, and we're going to just dive into those first. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your awesome books?
Yes, I have 2 books. The first one is called The Wisdom of the Sticky Note. Second one is called You're Stuck Now What? And the first one was an accident. It came about after I had done a year of posting on social media because people told me I wasn't doing it enough. and all I started doing literally was posting a question or idea every day. And of course, it's nothing random. It was what was going on in my head. There's nothing random under the sun. Anyway, I thought nothing of it till a year later when I met up with a bunch of people. And in the first 10 minutes of every conversation, every single person said, I love what you're doing. Mm-hmm. They didn't like it or do anything like that on social media, but they were saying, I can relate to that. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed is there were 3 themes in the first book, which were, you need to trust yourself. Mm-hmm. We have so many voices in our head, and don't tell me you don't, because we do.
Yes.
But deep in there is also your voice. Mm-hmm. And my whole mission is to have you recognize your own voice. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you don't listen to those other voices. It's just make sure you recognize your own and follow what your intuition tells you to do. Mm-hmm. Yep. The second one is your mindset. Right. mindset is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's Henry Ford, and I'm not going to get it right, but his quote is more or less, if you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, not that everything's hunky-dory and perfect all the time.
Right.
And why would I not choose to be optimistic if I can?
Mm-hmm.
Why that builds resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And the third piece is we always feel afraid. It's given. Like anytime you want to make a change, doesn't matter whether it's for great reasons, your brain is made to keep you alive and safe.
Right.
So if you want to do something new, it's like beam, beam, all the warning lights go on and say, we can't do something new because we've got everything figured out. We can keep you safe. And you try and do something new, you're taking too much energy. All nonsense. So what I've learned to be true is that fear and action, they can't coincide. And so when I say action, I don't mean this big thing. I mean the slightest, tiniest action to get you going. Fear can't be there.
Right.
So that was the first book. It's now going to be my third. It kind of is a confidence recipe. Spoiler alert. So I'm elaborating on that on my third book that I'm working on. And the second book was You're Stuck Now What, which came together during COVID. When I was feeling these feelings and I noticed that journaling my thought and reflecting on it was helping me feel a little bit of momentum or move forward. And so I thought, maybe this will help someone else.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So that's why you're here, because we have, I mean, both books are going to be hugely beneficial because, well, and your third one that's coming as well. And the main points that I think what we're going to be doing today is, you're going to talk about your expertise, and I'm going to throw in just sort of wrap it up nicely in the chronic pain experience, just so that it comes together.
Yeah.
But, the whole fear and action is huge because the pain creates fear and the fear creates more pain. And so when you are fearful of, for example, let's just say movement, your doctor's told you got to move. It hurts, it's going to hurt, that fear starts to come in, right? But what Ann is saying beautifully is just that one step, little step. And then that starts to build confidence, right? And the second thing I love that you said is about just bringing your voice. Yeah. Right. And so that's huge. Because in the chronic pain world, that voice is not necessarily always welcomed. So, right. So we're going to dive in a little bit more. So when we tried this last time, I kind of threw you to the sharks, and I'm probably going to mention that a few times today. But I know that there is a bit of a difference between the self-esteem and the self-confidence. And just for our listeners, some of you might be nodding your head, but when it comes to self-esteem and self-confidence, they have a lot of overlap. So how would you describe self-confidence first?
It's basically, excuse my language, not giving a shit. Knowing who you are and being okay with showing up exactly as that, which, full disclosure, is still something I will work on and probably always work on. I don't think it's a one and done, but self-confidence is really when any situation you show up in, you can be yourself.
Right. Okay, there you go. And so for our listeners, how often can you say you showed up as yourself, right? When it comes to pain, that's a very difficult place to come from. So, but that's not to say that there's nothing we can do, right? So that's why we're here. So the other thing that sort of ties into it is that whole self-esteem or self-efficacy, and self-efficacy just meaning the belief in yourself. So once you can start taking those small, little measurable steps, not measurable, doesn't even have to be measurable. That's when that self-esteem starts to grow. So there is a lot of overlap. Okay, what are we're going to kind of start with the tough part, or what might be holding us back from self-confidence, but what obstacles do you typically see in those that you work with when it comes to what sabotages our efforts for self-confidence? Oh yeah, there we go. The brain, our thoughts, our mindset.
It's our mindset, right? Again, back to Henry Ford, because it's so succinct that if you look at the world in a certain way, that's what you're going to see. So I always use the analogy of you buy a red car and all of a sudden, all you see everywhere around you is red cars.
So true.
It's not that they weren't there before, but the way your brain works, the reticular activating system in your brain will start to notice them. It's the same way when you look at the world as crappy all the time. Your brain will go, oh, you think the world's crappy? Let me show you more crap. When you start to shift, and again, this is not about ignoring reality. This is about trying to live a better, more resilient life. And so when you start to say, oh, I'm going to look for a good thing in this person, or I'm going to look for a good thing in this situation I'm in, then you're going to start seeing those little tiny things show up there too. So it works both ways. And I guarantee you when you start, and the shift, and that's why I'm holding my fingers like that. I'm literally talking like that much of a movement, because those tiny movements on top of each other really are the key to transformation, whether it's your mindset or other things. That really is the key to transformation. Tiny, not even baby steps. Because let's face it, those are big and clunky.
Yes.
These are little tiny ones.
Right. Yeah. And that's where the power comes from, is when you feel like you're now taking a little bit of the control because you're the one making that little teeny nudge forward, right? Yeah. Sure. Amazing. Okay. Back to my question sheet here. Okay. So what I wanted to try and do is, again, the way that you have written your book is fantastic, because they're just little sticky notes, and each sticky note poses a question, right? So I've taken some of those and some of the ones from your website, which is amazing. And we're going to talk a little bit about them because they're so short, succinct, and beautifully to the point. First one is progress over perfectionism.
Oh, all the time. And if you see the sticky note, and I don't know if the one you saw was, I have progress over perfection, practice, fail, and I spell fail wrong. I spell it F-A-L-E with an X through it, then fail, and repeat. But there's a couple things there. You need to learn, and you also need to forgive. And I think that's what gets missed in the typical movement as you're learning a new skill or trying something new out, whatever it may be, is the beating of ourselves because I didn't get it right the first time, when the actual progress is more important, and to keep moving forward. And if you mess up, then fine. Forgive yourself, learn for whatever that thing is, and keep going. Right. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah, that's a skill set, isn't it?
Oh, it's a biggie.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
Yes. And much of the work we do inside the Change Pain Academy, when it comes to moving beyond, so almost to the point where we're trying to accept our new normal, starts with self-compassion, starts with that, giving that space to really forgive. Okay. Sure. Confidence comes from doing.
Yeah. Sadly, sorry to be the bearer of this news, but it's like anything, like any skill, because confidence really is a skill. Right. And in order to grow any skill, you can't read the book, watch the YouTube video, and talk about it. You actually have to take action. And yeah, that's a hard truth. So it means you're going to fumble, you're going to trip, you're going to get a few bumps and bruises. But the next time you try it, you're going to get less trips, less bumps and bruises. And with time and practice, which any new skill requires time and practice, you will start to notice when you look back, like, look how far I've come.
Right. Right. And how resilient building that actually is, right? When you're the ones taking those steps.
For sure.
And I think too, if you have anyone in your family who's ever been through counseling when it comes to anxiety, especially, there's that process of sort of negotiating what it is you feel comfortable doing next. And so when your voice comes to the table and you start to say, this is what I can do next, and to what degree, then amazing. Like you're now, the power is back in your court. Okay, next one. Here we go. Before you listen to the voice in your head, make sure it's yours.
Yeah. So clearly I was going through something when I wrote that first book.
Pandemic, maybe.
Right? The trust yourself piece. So, especially when you try something different or new, the voices will come. It could be, a parent. It could be an influential teacher, a boss. There's many voices in there. And that's okay. And I want to reiterate that it's never a bad thing to have other opinions. But there's two things that matter. One is, again, to find your voice in there. And two, if you like the input that voice has given you that's not yours, by all means do it. But make sure when you're listening to those voices that you decide what the next step is, not someone else who literally is not you. Because even if the situation looks completely the same, if Dina and I are going through the same thing, we're two completely different people. Right. It is never the same. So that's why listening to your own wisdom when you're being asked to do something that maybe you don't feel you can do, that's important because you know you best.
Right. Yeah, well said. I do think too that when it comes to this negative bias that we have, and we'll talk about that in a second,
sure.
when we have these voices in our heads, and that is a big part of the chronic pain experience too, I'm not good enough, I can't keep up, I'm a burden, whatever those words that are coming to your head. Also, those voices that are coming to you are much a result of your upbringing. Like you said, the voices may be the way your parents explain things, or when you hurt yourself when you were younger. So all these things not only impact your pain, but also the talk, right?
That's happening. Commentary that happens
commentary.
In your head. For sure.
Right. And so like Ann is saying, if you can sort of understand whose voice is it, not just what the words are, but whose voice is it, is really, really impactful.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Oh, this is a beaut, right? And again, it's that whole practicing and learning a new skill. Mm-hmm. It's a journey. And sometimes you're going to be marching right along going, yeah, and then you're going to trip and you're going to, I'm back here again. The key is to keep taking a step forward, keep taking a step forward. And when you take a step back, that's not the end of the world. Right. It's a chance to regroup. Oh, that didn't work out. I'm going to move forward again. Right. And eventually you're kind of looking behind yourself and going, look how far I came.
Right. And it's amazing how many people don't do that, right? Yeah. They don't reflect. 100%. They don't realize how much work they actually have done.
Yep. Yeah. And their progress. Yeah. I think the progress gets missed when you don't look back.
True. Yeah, good point.
So true.
Yeah. Okay. You're never going to feel ready enough, confident enough, prepared enough. I love this.
That's the fear piece, right? Mm-hmm. We, like I said before, our brains are just meant, to your point, the negative bias. That's what kept us safe. That's what kept our ancestors safe. They had to anticipate the worst case scenario so that they could survive. So the saber-toothed tiger wouldn't be around the corner when they went outside. Right. Not true for us. Right. And so we can let those voices in our head, or our negative bias that goes, this isn't going to work out. We can let all of that control us rather than going, there's never going to be a right time. I'm going to take one step now to try something new or do something new. Okay. Because the right time doesn't exist, quite frankly. Right. It just doesn't exist. There's really no such thing.
Right. No, it's so true. And so just to pull it back, the chronic pain thing, it's so important. First of all, like you said, the safety. So you've said it twice now. So thank you.
Yes.
Safety, when it comes to the brain and how it interprets and gets us through our day-to-day life, safety is paramount. And so when you live with chronic pain, the brain just senses danger at every turn. And so, once we know that, once we acknowledge, okay, this is my brain just doing its best to navigate the world around me, that's important. And safety comes in so many ways when it comes to self-confidence, doesn't it? As far as the words we say to ourselves, to others.
100%.
Apologizing.
Right?
Yeah. All right. Number 9, fear is a liar. It magnifies what can go wrong and minimizes what can go right. It's a cognitive bias. What you focus on grows. Pay attention. What are you focusing on?
Yeah. Just like I said, when you pay attention to something, so all of a sudden you've got the red car and they're everywhere. That's what your brain looks for. Right. Oh, more red cars. There's another one. There's another one. And so when you're focusing on something that's not useful for you, your brain's just going to do what you ask it to do.
Right.
Simply, right? What you think about, it will draw more attention to. It's not mystical or magical. It's a fact. That's how your brain works. It'll focus on what you ask it to. And that's why intention, which is one of my huge things for anybody, doesn't matter if it's confidence or anything else you're working on, you have to know what your intention is and make sure it's something you want versus something you don't want. We're so clear. And in your community, it could be, I don't want to be in pain.
Right.
So my question would always be, what do you want instead?
Right.
So focusing on what you want is down to that little granular piece of how our language affects how we think and then our subsequent things we notice.
Right. And, as a small example, if you know that movement hurts and your doctor's saying you got to exercise, and you got to move, it's really important to ask what it is you want, what it is you like, and we lose the ability with chronic pain to really look forward. We're so used to looking back and at the life we once had. It's so difficult. But to be able to have a little bit of intention, just to try it out, to say, what is it that I want? Do I want to move regularly Yes. And how am I going to do that? What is going to be meaningful to me as far as that movement goes? So yeah,
for sure.
Oh, and there's that bias popped up again, that negative bias, right?
It's everywhere. I mean, because again, it's how we're hardwired.
Yeah.
That is how our brains are wired. It's not a fault in the system. And that's the one thing I want to call to attention to is none of this that we're talking about so far is a fault in the system or in you as a human being. It's the fact that you are a human being, that all these things exist. It's our safety systems that are built into our DNA that are just trying to do their job. And it's work to kind of go, I want to override that. Yeah. It can be done, but it's a lot of work for sure.
Absolutely. And thank you. That brought me to my next point. Just to reiterate what you had said about the focus. And for anyone listening, you know all too well, the more pain you are in, the more you're going to focus on that pain, which then makes the pain worse. Yes. So, if there is, and there are lots of ways to be able to shift that focus for any of you who work with, distraction techniques, whether you go out for a walk or you do some art or crafts or you listen to music, those are all things to pull you away from that focus. But once you know that your focus, the more you focus on your pain, the worse it gets, then hopefully we can then start to take that focus elsewhere. Yeah. So thank you for reminding me. I really wanted to talk about that. Okay, here comes another one. Stop getting in your own way. Instead, how about less overthinking and self-doubt and more self-trust and action?
Yeah. Anyone else there an overthinker?
I'm the queen.
Right. And when it comes to self-doubt and those other things, often when you dig deep, it's not so much the self-doubt, it's what will they think? Right? It's often looking around you, what's best for you and you know where you want to head. And that self-doubt comes in when you're like, oh, what's Dina going to think if I say that? What's Dina going to think if I do that? And I'll be honest with you, quite frankly, we're also focused on ourselves. Nobody's paying attention, right? Yeah. They're focusing on themselves. So it's about doing what's best for you.
Right. And that's a whole other conversation in itself because it's all about setting boundaries. It can be really hard to trust yourself when you live with pain, right? When your body is not, you don't feel safe in your own body like you once did. When you're not able to get out and do the things you wanted to do, there's a lot of distrust when it comes to your body. So, doesn't matter though, because there are things we can do to help. That's why Ann's here, is to really help us talk through, okay, one of the first steps is just starting to work on confidence, just hearing these words that we're saying around, possibilities around work that can be done. So there's hope. I love this one. This is me to a T. Growing your confidence is messy.
Oh my God, yes. And it goes, it's a theme here that you're picking up on, which is it's not a one and done. Nothing's a one and done. And it's messy because there's the fear that comes in because you're going to be maybe expressing yourself in a different way that you haven't done before. You're trying a new skill that you've never done before. And it's not linear. Again, to the 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's what it's like in any skill. So embracing the mess.
Right.
And saying, and being more playful about where can I get messy today? And make it one little thing rather than avoiding because of the mess. Know that you are not you're definitely not alone. Definitely not alone. Everyone feels that way. Everyone. Yes.
So true. Okay. And I think that ties in beautifully to the very first point about progression over perfectionism, right? There is never the right time to start. However, we don't want to not start just because we're worried about it not being the right time or not being able to do it well. Because again, like Ann has said, those little micro steps, little nudges. Oh, okay. I love this one because, not only are we trying to sort of gain things, but there's also that reciprocal, which is really important to the letting go of. So I'm going to read this out to you. Growing confidence requires letting go of expectations, judgment, beliefs, impatience. All of these are yours and within your span of control. Where do you want to start?
Yeah. Because often we are so hard on ourselves and the expectations, you're setting them, really. You have power over that. All of those different feelings. I want to see the other ones.
Yeah,
judgment, beliefs, all of those, usually we could put a self in front of those. Right? Yeah. Because We judge ourselves when we can't do something that we think we should do. We judge ourselves when we think, someone's thinking something about what we're doing.
Right.
And in essence, no one really cares as much as you do. And I know that sounds harsh, but we get caught up in our own cycle of thinking about ourselves. And really, when it boils down to it, it's letting go and knowing that no one else is as concerned about things as you are.
Mm-hmm.
They just aren't.
Yeah.
I know it seems hard. It does seem harsh, but it's reality. And, again, a lesson that still I work on. Like, it's not that anyone figures it out and then permanently knows it, but it is one of those things where you have to realize that those things don't help you.
Right. And letting go can come in many, many forms, can it? Right. And I think that's a whole other conversation again in itself, is that letting go of even certain voices that come to the table, letting go of certain aspects of your pain story. What are we really holding on to? So, and then one other thing too, that's a part of this is, and which comes from Ann's book, is just the whole impatience part. We are bred to believe, and Ann and I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, so we know that we are used to that quick fix. We are led to believe that this is what you do to make things better, and it's going to happen relatively quickly. We know that's not the case when it comes to especially working on confidence, working on new skill sets, reducing the amount of pain you live with, right? Yeah. So if we know this is going to be a longer journey, let's settle in for that long journey and embrace the mess and maybe get strategic along the way somehow, right?
100%.
Okay. 100%. So this is a big one.
And I don't know what she's saying, so I'm as curious as you are right now.
I am throwing Ann to the sharks right now. Oh, no, this one's going to be a heavy one for our listeners because it grabbed my eye. It's actually one of the first statements on your website. And I'm like, oh, this is just so good. Now you're like, okay, what is it? Okay, it's right on your about. I'm going to give you a little context first, so if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So all too often, our chronic pain community is left to believe that they have little to no control over their quality of life with pain, in part due to the way we treat pain, coupled with the lack of pain education in our current model of care. So I want to put that out there. What we're about to talk about next is not your fault. It is definitely a result of how we treat chronic pain right now. Okay, so here it is. Are you relinquishing your outcomes to someone or something else and hoping for the best?
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you can extrapolate that how you will for pain. Mm-hmm. When I work with clients, it's about preparing for every situation they're in so for example, if you're seeing your healthcare provider, your alternate care practitioner, whoever it is that you're encountering, really being clear before you get into that situation about how you want to go, your outcome, rather than just sitting there and having things happen to you.
Right.
You get a much better chance of getting what you want when you go in prepared. Maybe it's in your situation with questions or a specific piece of information you want to come away with, whatever the case may be, being super intentional before you go in there. And then you're way more likely to get closer to it, if not usually achieve it, by knowing what you want. It's key.
Oh.
Yeah. It sounds so simple, and it's not. It's a practice.
Right.
And it's so worth doing. Yeah.
Preparatory. Yeah. And I think that's part of the moving forward part of chronic pain is being strategic, just like Ann said. And by the way, we do have a freebie you can get, which is just getting you prepared for that doctor's appointment, getting it all on paper so that when the short time that you do have, you are fully prepared. Your voice comes to the table. I'll leave that link for you at the end. But it's really important to have that little preparatory time so you feel like you're more in the driver's seat, right? Yeah. You are kind of a little more intentional about what's your appointment and the outcomes. And it's about you, right? Yes, you're collaborating with your doctor and he's part of the equation, but you coming to the table with that voice first.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Pretty powerful.
Because how many patients are they seeing in a day?
Yeah.
You could be her fifth patient in a row with something or other and their brains all over the place. And really, you being intentional will call their attention. Mm-hmm. Because if they're ready to rhyme off their usual stuff and all of a sudden you're, well, wait a minute, and express what you want, it's going to change the dynamic.
Right. Yeah. Okay. This also comes from your very first book, The Wisdom of the Sticky Note. And it is, the first step is always harder than it is. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I don't think it matters what that thing is, because we're all going to have our are things that we're working on. And
Right.
we create, I picture like a Disney movie or Pixar movie where the stair gets bigger and bigger, and really it doesn't.
Right.
And once you take that step, I can even feel it in my chest, the relief.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's the tiniest of steps, it's that sense of control. Right. If you're able to go, I can make that phone call, I can send that email,
Mm-hmm.
I can pick up that book to read, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. The first step, once you do it, the sense of accomplishment and relief can be crazily exponentially bigger than the action, if that sounds weird, but you're actually taking that step. So it's like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
And it just builds that momentum.
Right. Just takes a little bit of courage, right? For that first.
Oh God. Yeah.
First.
Oh yeah.
But it's like the whole anxiety thing. When you are so worried about what's going to happen, and a lot of times it doesn't actually happen, right? We spend a lot of time,
probably most of
and
the time,
energy, right? really overthinking that, or feeling that physicality in our body as we worry about what's coming next. So now, I know we don't have a ton of time to talk about your second book. Maybe I'll have to come bring it back for another one sometime. But your second book is all about helping you to get unstuck. So it's called You're Stuck, Now What? I honestly would say a large part of our chronic pain community is deeply stuck in their pain, and completely understandable why, right? Again, it's not your fault. It's just the way our neurophysiology works, and the way chronic pain works is it's a process. So in your opinion, what are the biggest reasons that we humans get stuck?
Well, I'll give this little metaphor or analogy. The kid in the candy store that's told there's a whole wall of candy, and they're said you can get one thing. So you have so many options, and you can only pick one. And that can be very overwhelming and can keep you stuck. Equally, the flip side of feeling like you have no options can make you feel stuck.
Right.
And the one thing that seems to be true in my experience is when you're clear about, again, your outcome or what you want, that it pulls you forward. It's like there's the beacon. It doesn't mean that it stays there. It can shift and move. So especially in the community that I'm talking to, I'm guessing that could be the case, is things are going to change. The thing is, as long as you're moving towards something, it's going to pull you. And it's hard to be stuck when you have something you're working towards. Right. Like it's almost impossible. Yeah. And again, these are my experiences. Yeah. Having that little ounce of clarity about that next thing. And it could be, I'm going to have a cup of tea. Right. It doesn't have to be, I think we get caught up on the super big things when really it's being clear on the next thing that you can accomplish in that moment. And it could be getting yourself a cup of tea. It doesn't have to be, it's the low hanging fruit that you go for.
And I got goosebumps when you said, because you just explained the chronic pain experience beautifully, when you said there's that both, right? There's that too many choices and not enough choices, right? The not enough choices are, I don't know where the heck to go next. I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm being told there's nothing else we can do. 2, I have so many appointments and so little time and effort and motivation and drive and desire to do all of these things, and it may not be getting me the results that I want. So that is such a juxtaposition that, our community lives with. Yeah, for sure. So, but again, the message being brought home by Ann and myself today is just that courage to take that first little step, right? And then when you do take that step, look at it and go, oh, wow, look at that. Look at me.
Well, this is the thing I like to say is that, and that's why I love the gentleness of the little step, is you can take that step and go, not for me. Yeah. You go back to where you were. Here's a spoiler alert. You're never going to be the same after you step back, because you've made a step, you've done something. So you've gained that knowledge. You can take that step and go, I think this is okay. And then that'll help you to take the next step. So it's a no-lose proposition, taking baby steps. It's a no-lose proposition, because you're going to gain a direction of where you want to go, or you're going to go, nope, that's not where I want to go. I think I want to go here instead. Right. So yeah, I love that about that.
Oh, amazing. And if you do take that little step, right, and if it hurts, as it may or may not, that's okay, because that pain is not necessarily damage. And that's a whole other topic, but it may not mean you've done more damage to your body. So take that little step, something that you believe is that you're capable of doing, something that has some sort of meaning to it, take that first step, and then, give yourself that pat on the back. So was there anything else that we may have missed? I mean, I really kind of just focused on some of the high level snippets from your books, but is there anything that you think our community would really benefit from the sticky notes that you have in your books?
I honestly, self-compassion, kindness. We tend to be very hard on ourselves. And I think all of that is part of it, is being kind to yourself. I don't know if I have a kindness sticky note in there. I'm thinking my third book probably does. But it's about really honoring yourself and where you're at, and then taking the step.
I know, not only for myself, because this is not about me, but for our community, the deep need to feel like they need to apologize. I know you're the person to talk about that, but I really, I see it. I mean, not only do I live it, but I see that perpetual feeling or need to say that they have to apologize. I'm sorry, I can't make it out tonight. I'm not feeling well. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. I'm sorry, I can't play with my grandkids. It becomes perpetuating, right? Yes. So what would you suggest would help our community out with that?
Change the habit.
That's a tough one. That's a big one.
And because we were chatting about this before we went on camera, it's about pausing. And I always say, if you've done something wrong, please, absolutely apologize, as you should. However, to your beautifully illustrated points about, I can't make it out tonight. Sorry, I can't make it out. Shift that to, thank you for your understanding.
Right.
I can't make it out tonight. Thank you for your understanding. Think I can't get out on the floor and play with my grandkids today. Thank you for your patience. Right. It's about reframing the sorry into something that actually, my guess is, in this community is more accurate. It's just something you can't do at this moment. So thank you for your patience. Because a couple of things happen when you apologize and we don't think about it. People on the receiving end unconsciously go, oh, you must have done something wrong if you're apologizing, which 9 times out of 10, my guess is you haven't. And then what kicks in, and it's subtle, and it's not like you can even pick up, but there's a blame part that goes, oh, Dina said sorry, she must have done something wrong. And there's that whole thing that goes on. And then the other thing that happens, again, equally subtle, is the person being apologized to feels like they have to fix it. So if someone says, sorry, I can't come, the other person's like, scrambling to say something. But if you say, I'm not able to make it tonight, thank you for your understanding, it disconnects that whole loop. You're left with your dignity intact because you haven't apologized for something that chances are nothing to do with anyone else, not your fault either. So it maintains your dignity and gets the other person off the hook too. So that is why I really encourage the shift. And it is a shift because we're Canadian. I know there's a lot of you watching this that aren't Canadian. I understand that, but that's a big part of our culture to apologize. As women, if you're a female watching this, it's a big part of it, but no one's exempt, I don't think. So knowing that, just that little shift and taking a breath, and what I suggest is simple. Take a breath, pause. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to try that today because I am the queen of apologies. I think my sisters and I will say to each other, I'm sorry. It's too much. But you can see, for our listeners or our viewers today, you can kind of see how even the words we choose. So the words we know are really, really important when it comes to not only communication, but just how you feel that day and what sort of, that word feels like in your body. And it's a reciprocal deal. So when we're communicating with someone, so sometimes when we apologize, it's putting not only us in a bad position, but as Anne says, it puts them in a sticky situation, thereby feeling like they need to fix us. And nobody likes to hear that, right? When they're living with pain.
Well, that's broken, right?
And I know, you might feel like you are, right? But so
the fact is you're not.
Right. So the power of working on apology. So today, that's going to be our homework for today, is just to try and say thank you for your patience. And we would love to know how it goes. So hey, reach out to us. And how do we get a hold of you if they want to?
You can always go to my website and hit the contact me button and send me a note. So my website's steppingstonecoaching.ca, and you can send me a note on my contact me and we can reach out that way. It sends me an email.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will make sure I put that on the page for our podcast as well. And YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching. And thank you so much for being here. We finally got this one done.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a hug. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye.